That day, when I got home, I was surprised to see a pile of unfamiliar shoes at the entrance. When I stepped into the living room, I saw my in-laws, my brother-in-law's family, and their children all gathered there. I felt a moment of panic, but tried to stay calm. What is this? I asked my husband, John.
From today, everyone's going to live here together,
he said casually, as if it was no big deal. His words plunged my heart into deep despair. Why did you decide this all of a sudden? You didn't even talk to me about it. I questioned him, my voice growing cold. John gave me a look of displeasure.
It's already been decided.
From that day on, my in-laws started doing whatever they pleased. Even when I reached my limit, John just threw out a dismissive comment.
If you have complaints, maybe you should contribute more to the household before you say anything.
I was completely exasperated by his words. Still, I didn't complain. I only wanted to say one thing. I'm not complaining, but let me just say this one thing. The unexpected action I took next left John and the entire family in shock. From that moment, my life began to change drastically. My name is Snow. As my name suggests, I was born in the dead of winter, when the snow was falling steadily. My mother named me after the beautiful pure white snow she saw. I heard my father wished I would grow up pure and straightforward like the snow. I met John in college. We were part of the same club. He was born in the fall, during the season of beautiful autumn leaves. We often talked about how similar our name origins were.
Snow, you were really born on a snowy day? That's so romantic.
We quickly became close because we grew up in the same hometown. After graduating from college, we both got jobs in the city and continued dating, eventually getting married. A few years after our marriage, our son Thomas was born. Life after Thomas was born was busy but happy. Both John and I juggled work and parenting, but we managed. However, before Thomas turned 1, John suddenly quit his job. Wait, what? You quit your job? What's going on? I asked in disbelief, my face showing my frustration. John avoided eye contact for a moment.
I decided I'm going to be my own boss. It's always been my dream and I didn't want to miss this chance.
His tone sounded more like an excuse than an explanation. Chasing your dream is fine, but why would you make such a big decision without discussing it with me first? We have a baby who's not even 1 year old. How are we going to manage financially? My voice grew colder.
I get it, but you're freelancing too, and I thought we could make it work somehow.
His voice lacked confidence. Somehow? That's too vague. What's your plan? Where's the funding coming from? What kind of business are you planning to run anyway? I pressed him.
I have some savings, and if you need it, I'll take out a loan.
A loan? Are you serious? Taking out a loan to chase a dream sounds reckless. What about our life?
I know it's a lot to ask, but I feel like this is a turning point in my life. I really think I can succeed.
He answered, avoiding my gaze again. A turning point? It sounds like a gamble. You're married and have a child. You need to think about your family first, especially Thomas's future. I tried to stay calm, but there was so much I wanted to say, and I was getting more and more frustrated.
I get that, but that's why I need your support. Without you, I can't do this.
He spoke seriously, his eyes pleading. You want my support, but this is too impulsive. Of course, I want to support you, but you need to be more careful. I'm still working, but I can't handle a sudden drop in income. I sighed deeply.
I'm sorry, I really am. I'll think it over again.
He lowered his head in apology. That night, we didn't talk about it anymore, but I stayed awake late into the night. How could I support John's dream? How could I protect my son's future? My mind was spinning. The next day, I decided to talk to John again during a break from work. We sat down together while our son, Thomas, was napping. I couldn't sleep much last night. I don't want to dismiss your dream, but our life is important too. I hope you understand that.
I know, but I really don't want to give up on this chance. If I miss it, I'll regret it for the rest of my life.
Then let's plan properly. Let's make a concrete business plan. Figure out how much capital we need, how long it will take to turn a profit.
You're right. I rushed into it too quickly.
John nodded, finally understanding. After that, we reworked his business plan, calculating the necessary funds and risks in detail. Luckily, my freelance work was going well, so we thought we could manage for a while. John decided to move forward with his business slowly, taking calculated steps. Watching him pursue his dream, I genuinely wanted to support him. I hoped our whole family could be happy as Thomas grew older. John's journey had just begun, and we were determined to support him as a family. But just before Thomas turned 2, he suddenly had an asthma attack. The hospital tests confirmed it. He had asthma. I became terribly worried. I wondered if the polluted city air was affecting Thomas's health. That's when I decided we should move to the countryside where the air was cleaner. John, I've been thinking about moving to the countryside for Thomas's health. What do you think?
Move? How is that going to fix his asthma? What about my job? It's just starting to pick up here.
When we learned about Thomas's asthma, we were faced with a difficult decision. John was in the middle of pursuing his dream, but we couldn't ignore our son's health. His health is the most important thing. What will we do if his asthma gets worse?
I know, but have you thought about what'll happen to my job if we move to the countryside?
There must be work in the countryside too. I can freelance from anywhere. We need to prioritize creating the best environment for Thomas right now.
And what if I can't find work?
We'll figure it out together when the time comes. Let's put Thomas's health first. In the end, I decided we would move to the countryside. There weren't many rental apartments or houses available, so we decided to build a house on the land my parents owned. I took out the mortgage under my name, and since my relative was a contractor, we got a good deal on the house. John didn't help much with the moving preparations, so I handled everything on my own. On moving day, I packed up our belongings and headed to our new home with Thomas. John, though frustrated, agreed to move with us. However, once we settled into our new life, John's discontent began to grow.
Why did I end up jobless in this countryside? If we stayed in the city, I could have found more work.
We made this move for Thomas's health. What if his asthma worsens?
But my work is suffering because of this. I can't find a new job in this rural area.
We agreed that if you couldn't find work, we'd figure it out together. Please don't make it sound like it's all my fault. I did everything I could to help. He even took out a loan for this house.
So what? I don't care about the house right now. I need a job.
Then maybe we should get a divorce and you can move back to the city.
Are you saying you'd take Thomas away from his father?
His words shook me. Thomas was so attached to his father, and the thought of separating them made me hesitate about divorce. For a while, John became a stay-at-home dad while I continued working as a freelancer. Life was tough, and although John helped with the household chores, his frustration grew. He searched for jobs repeatedly, but there were few options in the countryside.
It's not my fault. I'm not to blame for this. You're the one who decided to move us out here.
Can we talk this over again? I apologize for not considering your feelings earlier.
What's the point of talking now? It's too late.
We can ask our family for help or look into jobs through relatives. Let's figure out what's best for all of us together. John went quiet, and a cold tension settled between us. What I thought was the best decision for Thomas had driven and wedged into my marriage. Months passed, and while John gradually got used to doing chores and caring for Thomas, his frustration about not working never fully subsided. I continued freelancing, trying to support the household. One evening, after a long day of work, I came home and was surprised to find a bunch of unfamiliar shoes lined up at the entrance. It wasn't just one or two pairs. It was clear there were many people in the house. The shoes seemed familiar, and from the laughter I heard inside, I knew something was up. My heart sank as I walked slowly into the living room. There I found John's parents, Brian and Lily, his sister, a single mom, Rachel, and her kids, all gathered in the living room. I'm home. What's going on? Why is everyone here? I asked John, my husband, trying to understand the situation.
They're all going to live with us from now on.
He said it casually, as if this massive change in our lives was no big deal. What? What do you mean they're going to live here? When did you decide this? Why wasn't I consulted?
Oh, I forgot to tell you, but it's already decided.
His response left me devastated. From that day on, our lives turned upside down. The once peaceful home I had worked so hard to create was filled with noise, constant family gatherings, and chaos. Thomas's sleep schedule was disrupted, and the house became a place where I had no control. It wasn't long before John's family started taking advantage of the situation. One evening, while I was preparing dinner, John's mother, Lily, approached me. Snow, we're having a hot pot party tonight. Could you go out and buy more meat for us? Right now? It's late, and Thomas is almost ready for bed. That doesn't matter. We need it for the party, she said dismissively, paying no attention to my concerns. Begrudgingly, I went to the store late at night to buy the meat. When I returned, the living room was in chaos. John's sister Rachel and her kids were loudly playing video games on the TV. Could you keep it down, please? Thomas is trying to sleep. What's your problem? They're just kids. They can be a little noisy. It's no big deal. But if Thomas can't sleep, his health could get worse.
Relax now. You're overreacting. Why don't you just join in the fun instead of being such a buzzkill?
John, say something. This is too much.
Ugh, come on, Snow. They're family. Just go upstairs if you want peace and quiet.
I couldn't believe it. The stress of having them all in the house disrupting our lives was getting unbearable. The next day, I tried to focus on work, but the noise from John's family made it impossible to concentrate. During a phone meeting with a client, one of the kids started shouting in the background, causing a disruption. Can you please keep it down? I'm working. But no one listened. John used to stand up for me at the beginning, but soon enough he stopped trying to mediate and took his family's side. John, this can't go on. I can't work and Thomas's health is being affected.
What do you want me to do? They're family and they're not going anywhere. Just stay upstairs if it bothers you so much.
His cool response left me feeling completely defeated. I was desperate to improve the situation, so I tried speaking to John's parents. Brian, Lily, can we talk for a moment? This living arrangement is really difficult for us. Thomas's health is getting worse and it's affecting my work too.
What are you talking about? We're family. It's only natural that we help each other out.
Of course, but it would really help if things could be a bit quieter, especially at night so Thomas can sleep.
Kids are resilient. He'll get used to it. You don't need to be so uptight about a little noise.
They completely dismissed my concerns, leaving me on the verge of tears. I realized I needed to talk to John again before things got worse. John, we need to have a serious talk. Our lives are falling apart like this. We can't go on like this.
I know, but what do you want me to do? I can't just abandon my family.
I'm not asking you to abandon them, but you need to talk to them. We need their cooperation if we're going to survive this.
Fine, I'll talk to them.
But I could tell he wasn't taking it seriously. The next day, John had a brief conversation with his parents, but nothing changed. The chaos continued, and I felt increasingly isolated even within my own home. I started to feel like I was reaching my limit. One afternoon, needing some space to clear my head, I decided to go for a walk alone. The countryside was beautiful, but my heart was heavy. I didn't know what to do anymore. Things escalated as John's family began to take more liberties. John's mother criticized the housework I did, and no matter how hard I tried to keep things clean, they would mess it up in no time.
Why is this place so messy again? Didn't you just clean?
I just cleaned. Y'all messed it up.
Cleaning isn't that hard. If you're going to complain, just do it right.
On top of that, no matter what I cooked, they always complained. One evening, I made a healthy vegetable stew for dinner.
Again with the same stew. Your cooking is always so boring. We might as well be eating convenience store food.
If you don't like it, feel free to cook for yourselves. Or better yet, you can grab some convenience store meals.
How dare you talk to me like that? You're the daughter-in-law. Stay out of my kitchen.
I realized then that John had inherited his passive-aggressive tendencies from his mother. Even my freelance work was mocked by her. I have an important client meeting today, so I'd appreciate if you could keep things quiet.
It's just a hobby, isn't it? If it were a real job, you'd be working in an office, not from home.
Oh, wait, what? You think my work is just a hobby?
That's how it seems to me.
Even John started siding with her.
Mom's right. Is this really a job?
What's that supposed to mean, John? You're jobless and have no right to talk.
You're the one who insisted on moving here. It's because of you I had to give up my job.
We couldn't even have a normal conversation anymore. Meanwhile, Thomas's asthma worsened, and he started waking up multiple times at night. I was up all night caring for him, while John's family continued their loud parties without a care in the world. Please, can y'all keep it down? Thomas is trying to sleep.
He's a child. A little noise won't hurt him.
Their complete disregard for our lives was unbearable. One day I reached my breaking point. John, I can't live like this anymore. Thomas is suffering, and I can't even work.
If you want to complain, do more to contribute around here first.
His words hurt me deeply. No matter how much I tried, his family didn't see my efforts and instead attacked me daily. What do you mean I don't contribute? I do all the chores and work from home.
You're the only one who's satisfied with that. The family expects more from you.
What more can I do? I'm already doing everything I can.
You should do more for the family. That's your role as a wife.
I sighed deeply, trying to find a way to fix this situation. I couldn't stand it anymore. Every day felt like a battle. But in the midst of all this, I looked at Thomas's smile and reminded myself I had to endure for his sake. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. One day I gathered all my courage and decided to confront John head on. I'm not complaining, but there's something I need to say.
Ugh, what now? More complaints? Go ahead, let's hear it.
It's not a complaint. I'm just going to tell you the facts. I took a deep breath and calmly explained that I was the one paying for the mortgage and that the land the house was on had been given to me by my parents. I'm the one paying for this house, and the land? It's from my parents, not yours. John's eyes widened in shock as he processed what I had just told him. His family, too, fell silent as a heavy tension filled the room.
What? I thought the house was in my name.
How could the house be in your name when you've been unemployed? I took out the deed to the house and showed it to him, proving that the house was in my name and my name alone.
This has to be a joke.
It's not a joke, it's the truth. The house is in my name. It's not in your name or even in both our names. I've been carrying this burden alone.
Then why didn't you tell me that from the start?
Because from the beginning, none of you respected me enough to ask or care. John fell silent, staring at the deed in disbelief. When he finally raised his head, his expression had changed to one of anger.
So what? Are you planning to kick us out?
I'm not saying that. I'm asking for a little respect and consideration for me and Thomas.
You're trying to throw us out just because the house is in your name.
Her words made me feel like all the sacrifices I had made were being dismissed in an instant. Anger welled up inside me, but I forced myself to remain calm and firm. Who's the one being unreasonable here? Do you have any idea how hard I've worked for this family?
What are we supposed to do now? We have a life too.
Then maybe we should work together to improve our lives, don't you think? Lily didn't like that suggestion at all.
Improve our lives? You need to take care of the house better before you say things like that.
I do take care of the house. Y'all just choose to ignore it. The room froze. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. John stood up and yelled at me, his voice echoing throughout the house.
You're the one acting like you're better than everyone else, and that's why we're all miserable.
I'm acting superior? All I've ever done is try to help this family.
Enough! There's no place for someone like you in this family anymore. Family means everything. You clearly don't understand that.
His words were like a final blow. What do you mean there's no place for me? If it weren't for me, this house wouldn't even exist.
If you cared so much about this family, you'd put your selfishness aside and focus on us.
His cruel and heartless words made my anger reach its peak. I'm the only one thinking about this family. Y'all only think about yourselves. There's no point in talking to you anymore. With that, the conversation escalated into an argument that had no end in sight. I realized in that moment that no matter how much I tried, things were not going to get better. Our home had become a battleground, filled with constant tension and cold, harsh words. I found myself crying in silence, wondering what I should do next. But despite everything, John's family continued to act like nothing had changed. They still treated the house like it was theirs, spending money recklessly, ordering food deliveries, and leaving the house in complete disarray. One evening, when I returned home, I noticed empty sushi containers scattered across the kitchen counter. What is this?
Oh, we ordered sushi today because we were craving it. Don't worry, I used your card to pay for it.
Again? You've got to be kidding me. I raised my voice, but John's mother and sister didn't care.
By the way, I'm going shopping with some friends tomorrow, so I'll be borrowing your card again.
They used my card without even asking, like it was their right. And as usual, John didn't back me up. Instead, he took their side.
Come on, it's just a little bit. Mom and my sister are family. It's not a big deal.
A little bit? They're wasting money every day. Who do you think is paying for all this? My patience had finally reached its limit. I decided I couldn't let this situation go on any longer. That night, I contacted a lawyer my father knew and explained everything. Even though John had given his family my card, I decided to file a lawsuit against them for unauthorized use and demand compensation. When I showed the legal documents to John's family, their faces turned pale.
What's this?
This is an eviction notice. I've had enough. You all need to leave this house.
Why are you doing this? We're family.
Just because we're family doesn't mean you can treat me this way. Your behavior has gone too far.
No, let's be reasonable. We can talk this through.
And talk? We've talked, and none of you have ever listened. You even told me I had no right to complain until I contributed more. Well, I built this house. I've been supporting our family, and I've done everything I can to protect Thomas's health. And yet all of you have trampled over everything I've done. John was silent. His mother and sister, too, were speechless. I felt no guilt about my decision. In fact, for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of empowerment.
How could this happen?
John's mother began to tear up, but I remained calm and firm. Think about everything that's happened. I've given you all so many chances, and every time you've betrayed my trust.
Please, Snow. Let's talk one more time. We'll change. We'll do better.
It's too late for that. That night, John's family began quietly packing their things. A few days later, they managed to find a temporary place to stay, and finally they left. As I watched them go, I took a deep breath, unsure whether peace would finally return to my life. As I sat on the couch, Thomas came over and sat beside me.
Mommy, are you okay?
I'm okay, sweetie. Things are going to be much better now. I smiled at him, and he smiled back, reassured. The day after John's family left, the house was quieter than it had been in years. I took a deep breath and returned to the living room with Thomas. We'll be okay now, Thomas. We'll make it together, just the two of us. Thomas nodded, understanding in his own way. After consulting with a lawyer, I proceeded with the legal process to sever ties with John's family completely. Once John's family was gone, the house felt so peaceful, almost as if the chaos had been a bad dream. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of tranquility. John's family moved into a dilapidated old house they found in desperation. The walls were crumbling, and the floors creaked with every step. Having sold their previous home, they were forced to settle for whatever they could get. Not long after, John finally realized he had to apologize.
Snow, I'm really sorry. I was wrong.
If you really knew that, why didn't you change your ways sooner?
I didn't know what to do. I was confused by everything. My mom, my sister. It all became a mess.
Confused? Do you have any idea how much you put Thomas and me through?
I do. That's why I want to make things right. Please, let's try again.
His plea felt empty. There was no longer any trust to rebuild. I'm sorry, but I've decided to file for divorce. John's face went pale as my words sank in.
Wait, divorce? How am I supposed to live? I don't even have a job.
That's not my problem. You'll figure it out. There are jobs out there.
I know, but...
But what?
I don't know, Snow. Please reconsider. I can't handle all of this.
My voice rose, unable to hide my frustration. Handle it? You never could handle anything, could you? Always making excuses. Right at that moment, Thomas walked into the room.
Mommy, what's wrong?
It's okay, sweetie. Mommy's just talking to Daddy about something important. I tried to smile and reassure him, but he could sense the tension.
I don't want Daddy here.
His words shocked both John and me. Thomas, why would you say that?
Because Daddy is always mean to you. I see it. You're sad when he's around.
Tears filled Thomas's eyes as he spoke, and I could feel my heart breaking.
Thomas, no. Daddy plays with you, right?
But I don't want you to make Mommy sad.
John stood there speechless, as if the words coming from his son had knocked the wind out of him. I hugged Thomas tightly, reassuring him. Don't worry, sweetheart. I'll always protect you. Thomas hugged me back, his little voice whispering softly.
I love you, Mommy.
At that moment, I knew I was making the right decision. A few days later, I contacted my lawyer again to finalize the divorce proceedings. John resisted at first, but after hearing Thomas's words, he eventually accepted the situation and agreed to the divorce. And so, we officially parted ways. Thomas and I began our new life, just the two of us. The transition wasn't easy, but it was filled with hope. John, meanwhile, struggled to find a stable job in the countryside and eventually returned to the city, relying on his old contacts to find some work. However, his income wasn't enough to support the high cost of city living. He ended up in a tiny rundown apartment without basic amenities, far from the life he once had. As for me, I continued working as a freelancer, finding balance between work and raising Thomas. My work allowed me to be present for Thomas, and that was the most important thing. Thomas, too, thrived in our new life. Every day, he came home from kindergarten with a big smile on his face, eager to tell me about his day.
Mommy, I played with my friends today.
Oh, that's wonderful, Thomas. Mommy's so happy to hear that. I hugged him tightly, overwhelmed with gratitude for the peace and happiness we now had. Watching Thomas grow filled my heart with joy. Meanwhile, John sent small amounts of child support, but our relationship with his family became distant, and we found peace in that distance. My freelance work continued to grow, and I took on new projects, honing my skills and building a stable career. My income became steady, and the quality of our life improved little by little. I cherished every moment with Thomas, teaching him new things, playing in the park, and reading books together on the weekends. One day, as we sat together reading, Thomas looked up at me with wide eyes and said something that made my heart swell.
Mommy, when I grow up, I want to be just like you.
Tears welled up in my eyes as I hugged him tightly. Why do you want to be like me, sweetie?
Because you're kind and you cook and you work hard and you play with me. If I have you, I don't need Daddy.
His words filled me with both sadness and joy. You're an amazing boy, Thomas. I'm so proud of you. From that moment on, I vowed to cherish these simple but meaningful moments with Thomas, to protect his happiness, and to keep moving forward with hope. I had let go of the painful past and was ready to embrace the future with open arms. The first Christmas after the divorce was quiet but special. One evening, the doorbell rang and a delivery arrived. A small package was left at the door, and when I opened it, there was a gift and a letter inside. It was from John. I opened the letter and read his words carefully.
Snow, thank you for taking care of Thomas. I know I'm still far from perfect, but I'm trying to change. Please keep Thomas safe and happy. I'll always be grateful.
As I read his letter, I could sense that John was trying to grow, but I knew there was no place for him in our lives anymore. No amount of remorse could undo the damage he had caused. I folded the letter and tucked it away, determined to move forward without looking back. I glanced over at Thomas, who was playing near the Christmas tree, his face lighting up with excitement.
Mommy, what's this?
Santa left you a gift, sweetie. I chose not to tell him the gift was from John. I didn't want to complicate the happiness we had found. Thomas tore open the package to reveal a small toy car inside.
Look, Mommy, it's the one I wanted.
His joy was infectious, and I couldn't help but smile as I watched him play with his new toy. Seeing Thomas happy made everything worth it. As the days passed, Thomas continued to grow and flourish, making new friends at kindergarten and finding joy in everything he did. His laughter filled our home, reminding me daily that the sacrifices I'd made were for the best. One day, while we were walking home from school, Thomas suddenly stopped and looked up at me with a serious expression.
Mommy, when I get bigger, I want to help you with everything.
Oh, that's so sweet of you, Thomas.
I'll help you cook and clean and work.
You already helped me so much, sweetie. His words touched me deeply, and I felt overwhelmed by how much he was growing, not just physically, but in his heart. Each day our bond grew stronger, and I knew that together we could face anything. As time passed, my freelance career continued to flourish. I began taking on larger projects, gaining recognition in my field. The steady income brought stability to our lives, and I could finally provide Thomas with the kind of life I had always dreamed of. I made sure to balance work with spending quality time with Thomas. We would cook meals together, go on picnics, and visit the library on weekends. Every moment was filled with love and laughter. One day, Thomas came home with a drawing he had made at school.
Mommy, look! I drew us!
The picture showed the two of us holding hands under a bright sun. It's beautiful, Thomas.
That's me and you, Mommy. We're always together.
I hugged him tightly, knowing that no matter what challenges we faced, we would always have each other. As the years went by, I continued to watch Thomas grow into a kind, thoughtful boy. He became my source of strength and inspiration, reminding me every day that we had made the right choice. The memories of the difficult times with John and his family began to fade, replaced by the warmth and joy of life we had built together. I had learned to let go of the past and embrace the future with hope and determination. And as I looked ahead, I knew that no matter what challenges came our way, Thomas and I would face them together, stronger than ever.